Nostalgia sells the American road trip as the ultimate freedom. But that's a lie. For black families, that long drive was a gauntlet of horror. Pulling over at a white diner was a life and death gamble. Racist cook would routinely drag meat across the floor, spit in your food, lace sandwiches with crushed glass. Handing your cash to a segregated diner was paying for the privilege to be disrespected. So black mothers engineered a portable survival meal. Join us today while we discuss the story of the Shoebox lunch. I'm your host, Country Boy. This is One My Black History. If you like stories like this, you can find more stories like this at onemyhistory.com. But without further ado, let's get started. To understand the genius of the Shoebox lunch, you have to understand the mathematics of traveling while black. Following World War II, the black middle class was expanding. Hundreds of thousands of black Americans were buying cars to bypass the humiliation of segregated train cars. But the open highway had its own trap. If you were driving from Chicago to Mississippi to visit family, you were driving across hundreds of miles of hostile territory. There were entire counties, entire towns, known as sundown towns, where it was illegal for a black person to be inside city limits after dark. You couldn't sleep there, you couldn't use the restroom, and you certainly couldn't sit down at a restaurant. White business owners recognized that black travelers were trapped in their cars, so they exploited it. Gas stations would gladly take your money at the pump, but then they would lock bathroom doors. Restaurants operated on a strict system of humiliation. For a black family desperate for food, they had to walk in a black alley, stand in the dumpster, knock on the kitchen door, and hand your money over to the cook, and then you took whatever they handed you in a brown paper bag. You couldn't check it, and you couldn't complain. The food handed out at that back door was often deliberately contaminated. It was an intentional strategy to remind black people that their money did not buy them safety or respect. If you wanted to survive this drive, you needed to bring your own meals. This wasn't a quaint Sunday picnic. It was a biological necessity. Days before a major trip, black women transformed their kitchens into a preservation lab. They did not have portable coolers. They didn't have air-conditioned cars. They had a high-calorie, protein-dense food that could sit in a sweltering car for 3 days without rotting or causing food poisoning. If you look at the science of a shoebox lunch, you couldn't pack mayonnaise, you couldn't pack butter or soft cheeses. They would spoil in hours. Instead, you relied on curing and heavy frying. Fried chicken was the anchor of a shoebox lunch. It wasn't cooked like the chicken today. Black mothers would fry the chicken hard. They cooked it longer in heavier grease, creating a thick, nearly impenetrable crust. This wasn't just for taste and texture. It was a strict preservation tactic. The heavy frying sealed the meat in, locking the air and bacteria out. A piece of fried hard chicken could sit at room temperature for nearly 2 days and still be safe to eat. They also boiled eggs, keeping them perfectly sealed inside their shells until the exact moment they were ready to be eaten. They also baked pound cake. This wasn't light and airy sponge cakes with heavy icings that would melt and be a sticky mess in a hot car. These were dense, heavy cakes packed with sugar that wouldn't crumble when you hit a pothole. Once the food was created, they needed a containment system. Tupperware was expensive and bulky, but every house had an empty shoebox. They took those boxes, they lined them with wax paper to keep the grease from soaking through the cardboard, and then they packed the food tight. And then they wrapped the entire thing in heavy string. It was cheap, it was disposable, and it was perfectly designed to sit in the floorboards of a Chevy. That piece of cardboard was a bit more than food. It was a massive economic boycott. When black mothers loaded a stack of shoebox lunches in the car, they made the family self-sufficient. They didn't have to stop. They didn't have to beg for a seat at a racist lunch counter. They didn't have to subject their children to the humiliation of the backdoor alley. They drove right past those white diners. They refused to stop. Black travelers starved the segregated hospitality industry out of millions of dollars of black spending power. White restaurant owners in the South lost out on an entire demographic because they refused to treat them like human beings. These shoebox lunches became so massive that they renamed geography. Segregated train cars like the Illinois Central Express were packed with so many black families relying on shoebox lunches that the route was called the Chicken Bone Express. When black families were restricted to a single segregated section of the Atlantic Beach coastline, they brought their shoebox lunches with them, permanently marking the sand as Chicken Bone Beach. These weren't just cute nicknames. They were a footprint of millions of black people bypassing a white system that was created to break them. Between the Green Book and the shoebox lunch, you didn't just survive the road, you had to outsmart the white ego. You kept your money in your pocket and you kept your family alive. Today, food magazines and lifestyle brands love to romanticize cold chicken and boiled eggs as a classic Southern picnic staple. You'll see high-end restaurants serving shoebox-style lunches. They frame it as quaint Southern charm. They sell it as a nostalgic throwback to a simpler time. But they've stripped away the violence of Jim Crow and then served it to the public as a leisurely afternoon in the park. They erased the reality of the physical threat. They erased the white cooks that rubbed your meat on the floor and pissed all over your food. And most importantly, they erased the black mothers who stood over a pan of hot grease in an unair-conditioned kitchen just so they could outsmart an entire region of white folks with an empty piece of cardboard. Thank you. This has been One of My Black History. I'm your host, Country Boy, and this has been the story of the shoebox lunch. I'm glad you like this. I've been doing a lot of food lately. I think this is dope. I love doing food because I feel like this is a great connector to people. It's very universal. People see food and okra and oxtail and shrimp and grits, and they're like, I love those foods, but I had no idea the connection between African Americans and this food. So yeah, it's dope. Check me out on my Substack. I'm putting out articles every single week, doing notes every single day. I would love to see you there. Come converse with me. Come talk to me. I'd like to thank all my day ones, all my financial contributors. If you'd like to see your name up, if you'd like to see your name in the ending credits like you see it right now, please become a donor to my Substack. And I love you all. Peace.